What's up, guys? My name's Cody, and this is another UFC betting breakdown, this time for UFC 267. And honestly, I think this is the best card of the year, at least so far. We got 2 title fights. We got a bunch of banger fights all the way down. The entire main card is absolute fire. The whole prelims are interesting fights. There might only be like one fight that I'm not like legitimately super excited for. And even that one's a pretty decent fight. Before we get into it, make sure you leave a like on the video, leave a comment. I love going back and forth with you guys. I'm going to put my Twitch and my Twitter in the bio, or in the caption as always. Hit me up on there. Love going back and forth with you guys. I stream every day. We're going to be watching all the pre-fight hype, the press conference, the embeddeds, the all the promo for this card, because I'm super excited about it. Now, typically I'm live for all the fights. Unfortunately, this card starts at 10:30. So again, don't miss it. It starts at 10:30 in the morning Eastern time. I always train on Saturdays at 3 o'clock, and I coach the kids class at 1. So it's going to be a little tough to watch some of these fights, but it is what it is. We're going to have them on in the gym, and I'm going to do my best. And when I get home, I'll stream. Maybe we can start training a little early. We'll see, how that all plays out. So I might not be live for all of them as much as I would love to, because this card is sick. Any fights I miss, I'm definitely going to be watching as soon as I get back from training on the ESPN Plus app. Again, this fight is going to be, as banger as this card is, it's free on ESPN Plus. Well, obviously you have to have a subscription to ESPN Plus, but no pay-per-view fee. So definitely check out this card. It's going to be lit. Before we get into it, one last thing. Last week, got to say, lost my streak. And you know what? If there's going to be a way you lose it, I lost it because Fedor had that savage knockout. It was a great knockout. I knew it was possible in the first round. He could catch Tim Johnson. And hey, he's still fast. He's still got hands. And he caught Tim Johnson right on the chin, put him down. We did have Negomariano by KO. We had Herbert inside the distance. We got Soma at plus 220. These are including my Bellator bets, obviously. Tim Johnson, Fedor fight on Bellator. But I did miss on that Park Rodriguez fight going the distance. Ended up Park getting devastatingly knocked out, which was crazy right at the end of the fight. But it is what it is. They were both gassed and just trading. You had Trinaldo pulling out the decision, which, I knew he's a veteran. He's a savvy veteran. It was possible, but I was really hoping Grant could catch that chin. And we did cash that Tokov, Mikhailov, and Usman Nurmagomedov parlay for even money, or minus 107. And and then Mason Jones ended up getting a draw, so we got a scratch out on those. Just had a slight loss, maybe like 2 units or something like that. So looking to get back on it, get another streak going. It is what it is. Tim Johnson wins that fight. We keep the streak alive, but, I do think if he could have survived that first round, he could have, but he played right into Fedor's, game plan, went right out there and just started boxing with him first couple minutes of the fight, and that's just that's Fedor's one path to victory, so is what it is. But with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this. First up, we got a dope fight. We got Tagir Ulanbekov taking on Alan Nascimento, and Nascimento coming in for his debut. And, his UFC debut, that is, obviously. He did have a Contender Series fight before against Julian Paiva, who is a really solid fight. Who just got matched up against Sean O'Malley. That's right. I knew he had a pretty legit next fight already announced. But so that's going to be fun. But, yeah, that Paiva fight was close, man. I mean, he went to split decision with Paiva, who's a pretty legitimate prospect at, just coming up right now in the UFC. I mean, flyweight. Paiva's had some bantamweight fights. He's a pretty big guy. Other than that, not a lot of names you might recognize. Did actually fight Ricardo Ramos, who we're going to be talking about later. Ramos was able to get the decision. Other than that, he hasn't fought like the hardest competition, or at least the most well-known for sure. Did have a little stint at Ryzen. Just went 0-1. But, definitely a striker. I definitely think his striking can be competitive with Ulanbekov, but the thing about this, watching Tagir's fights, a lot of people, I swear, I don't know, man. I mean, a lot of people have been giving Ulanbekov a lot of shit for scraping out a close win over Bruno Silva, and I get it. You look at Bruno Silva's UFC resume so far, he's 2-1. Technically, he did had the no contest after getting submitted by Khalid Taha because Taha popped for PEDs. And then he did lose to David Dvorak, a legitimate guy, and then obviously Ulanbekov. And then when they gave him two guys that, were a little bit lower, lower UFC level for sure, JP Buys and Victor Rodriguez, he put them both out. So, I don't know. I just feel like Bruno Silva is better than a lot of people give him credit for. And I mean, I'm cool with it because if they keep giving Bruno Silva these guys that aren't on his level, then I'm gonna keep cashing without him being too big of a favorite. So I'm cool with it. But in this fight, I definitely feel like people are writing Ulanbekov. I mean, not writing him off because he's definitely a big favorite. But people are saying, oh man, overhyped. He's not that good. Like Bruno Silva took him down. Bruno Silva stuffed some of his takedowns. Bruno Silva put hands on him at some points of the fight. Bruno Silva's pretty legit, man, and he's tough. You never just like steamroll Bruno Silva. He's been, especially lately, like it just seems like he's getting better. And it just seems like he's a pretty legitimate like UFC caliber fighter. And I mean that was Ulanbekov's debut. He obviously got the win. I thought it was the rightful decision. I mean it was a competitive fight, but I definitely thought Teixeira won. And in this fight though, I just feel like Nascimento. I went through, watched some more of his fights because I had only seen him fight maybe one time until this week. I think it was his last fight. No, it was that Paiva fight. I always watch Contender Series, but as long as I'm not training during it, and then I have ESPN Plus, so I get to go back and watch them. And the cool thing is they let you go back and watch all these fights, and in that fight it was super competitive, but I just feel like Paiva's not going to be out there looking to wrestle you, and if he does, it's not what he does. In this fight though, man, Teixeira, I definitely feel like the striking is pretty close, pretty competitive. But I just feel like Teixeira's going to be able to take this guy down, get on top of him. I get that his wrestling hasn't looked like some of these Dagestani savages lately. But, people think, oh, well, he's just like, he's one of the strikers from Russia. And, just because he's got that lanky type of build. But, I just feel like he's a little underrated. I mean, obviously, he's minus 340, so it's not like people are thinking Nascimento is going to, not a lot of people at least are thinking he's going to win this fight. But at the same time, I just feel like people are like, I've heard a lot of people just saying, oh, Teixeira's overhyped. Like, it's just the casuals betting on him. But I really feel like Ulanbekov is going to be able to take this guy. The strike is going to be competitive, but I don't feel like Nascimento is going to be able to just put him out with one shot. And with that, like, without that fear in me, it's like, I don't really see him just knocking Teixeira out. I mean, his only loss was a robbery. This Zalgas Zumagulov fight, that was in Kazakhstan. He literally, like, won every round. I've rewatched it for this fight, and I don't know why, because I perfectly remembered it. I was like, maybe I'm being biased. Let me go rewatch it, because I rewatched it when he fought Bruno Silva. And, and I just don't understand how he didn't get that win. I mean, I do, because it was in Kazakhstan. And I think it was even in Zalgas' home city, not just the country. But, yeah, I mean, he was taking him down every round. He was outstriking him. The fight was really not that competitive. I mean, it's not like he was blowing him out every round, but he was edging every round. And somehow they gave him a loss. He should be 13-0. I get it's maybe, you haven't seen him fight the big names. You haven't seen him really fight anybody a lot of you guys are going to know of. But this guy's legit, man. I really feel like he's going to be able to take Nascimento down, pass his guard, land some good ground and pound. The submission is live, but I really feel like probably a decision. I think Nascimento's pretty tough. I think Teixeira will take him down, out-grapple him, control him, and take the decision. Moving on. There is 15 fights on this, so I'm going to try to get through some of these, especially the ones I'm not as interested in betting, as quick as I can. So this isn't a 2-hour video. I do think Ulanbekov is a potential parlay piece. I don't think I would really play a method of victory. If so, maybe a decision. I mean, I do think a decision is the most likely outcome, but, I wouldn't completely rule it out that he finds the finish. So maybe I just parlay that one, and like a parlay or two. Not something I'm going to be just steaming, but, a little bit of cash on the parlay. Maybe a little something on the decision. I got to take a look at that prop. And moving into this one, we got Damir Ismagulov taking on Magomed Mustavayev. And, man, spoiler alert, I think this is going to be a little bit similar. I mean, in this fight, man, you got Damir Ismagulov. His one loss was Ramazan Izimbayev. Went back, watched it. Okay, it was a long time ago. I mean, this was back in 2015, 15 fights ago. And he's came a long way since then, man. I mean, he's pretty good everywhere. I won't say he's great everywhere, but he's solid everywhere, man. I mean, his striking's legit. His grappling's legit. I feel like he has the advantages pretty much everywhere in this fight. Magomed, definitely super powerful. Definitely a finisher. I mean, we know he landed some good shots on Brad Riddell. Ended up losing the decision, but was able to, he trains over at Jackson Wink. Obviously, good camp. I should note that out because not a lot of people know he's over there. But, his losses, Kevin Lee, Brad Riddell, some guys in the regional scene. I mean, M1's definitely a tough regional scene to fight out of. But, obviously everybody knows him. Like, he knocked out Rafael Fiziev with that spinning back kick in the first round. Gave him his first loss. And, a lot of people, because of that, I feel like are really thinking that, he could go in here and knock Ismagulov out. And obviously it's always on the table with a Mustafaev fight. But I just feel like Ismagulov has all of the advantages, man. I honestly feel like he's the better striker, the better grappler. He's better on the cage and in the clinch. He's better on the ground. Wrestling and jiu-jitsu. I really feel like he's better everywhere. And the other thing is he throws so much more volume. He just does more. His pace is higher. Magomed, he really just looks for the one shot. I mean, he'll land 20 to 40 significant strikes over the course of a fight, and if he doesn't knock you out, he's probably going to lose. I don't know. I just feel like Damir, his fight IQ is high enough. He's got almost 25 fights. He's stayed safe since then. He's never been finished. His chin checks out. He's got decent defense, and when he gets hit, it just seems like he's a pretty durable guy. We haven't seen his chin cracked yet. And I just feel like, man, he's got all of the advantages here. Just way too much more tools in the shed to lose this fight. I mean, obviously, Magomed has a stereotypical puncher's chance, but other than that, I just don't see how he wins this fight. So give me Damir Ismagulov, probably by decision. That's what, that's kind of how I see this fight going. I don't really think he finishes Magomed, but I just think he's going to land more, maybe mix in a couple takedowns, just primarily beat him off volume. Yeah, he's probably just going to fight smart, and maybe he'll call it people get on and give him shit for not being the most exciting fighter, but I just feel like he's going to do what he needs to do, be smart, stay disciplined, and win this fight. Unanimous decision, 30-27. Moving on, we got Yazong Hu taking on Andre Petroski. And, Petroski stepping in. And a lot of people really only know him off The Ultimate Fighter. He lost to Brian Battle in the finish. In the finale. Did beat Michael Gilmore on this Barbosa Chikadze fight. Or card. And, we know what he does at this point. He obviously doesn't have a ton of fights, but this guy, kind of his Achilles heel was that cardio. He just seemed to gas, toward the later end of the fight. It does seem like he's working on that. It does seem in his last couple of fights that the cardio has been a little bit better. But, what he does well. He's good wrestler. He's good on the mat. It's jiu-jitsu. And, this is probably the lowest level fight on the card. I should throw that out here. And Yazong Hu, man, after watching a couple of his fights, obviously he's a striker. He's over at Tiger Muay Thai. After watching these fights, it's like, this guy, his competition has been, his 3 wins are 0-1, 0-0, and 2-3. The 2 times he fought someone in the UFC, he got finished, and then he lost a decision to Rashad Coulter. So, definitely not a great start so far. Damn, how he got in the UFC at 3-0 with nobody who had a win, I'm not entirely sure. Honestly, the reality is they really are looking for new Chinese prospects. So if you can put together just a couple wins, the UFC's really looking at their build. I think they already built the institute out there. I don't know if it's open, but I think that thing's been built for a little while now because they had it during that Zhang card. A lot of fighters fighting out of there. I think they were doing like some renovation to it, but they built that up. So they're really trying to push these Chinese fighters. But man, this is a tough matchup, man, because you go through Zhang's fights and he just seems like a straight up Muay Thai fighter. His takedown defense, his his grappling, his jiu-jitsu. There's not a lot of tape on it, but I just feel like this is going to be a levels fight. Not that Andre Petroski, I think Petroski he's going to have some problems when he fights the upper part of this division for sure. Even if he were to fight any ranked guys, I definitely see the holes in his game, but call me Kevin Lee. But in this fight, I just feel like, man, he's going to be able to go out there and use, his number one game plan. He's going to be able to go out here. He'll throw some hard shots. He does throw with, a lot of power. But overall, he's going to get right to his game plan, man. He's going to take this guy down. And I see a submission coming. I think he's going to take Zhang Hu down, probably in the first round, and probably find the back, rear naked choke, maybe lock up an arm triangle. I just feel like Petroski's going to be a little too much for him on the mat. I don't really see Zhang Hu being able to stuff these takedowns. Maybe he stuffs one or two, but Petroski's going to keep coming. And I think Petroski gets him down, and I'm going to go with the submission in the first round. Honestly, this is the lowest level fight on the card. There's 15 fights. I'm probably going to have no action on this. Petroski at minus 250. Maybe you look at Petroski inside the distance. See what the line is on that. I'm not entirely sure. Because I really don't see this fight going the distance. Especially with Petroski winning, I just don't. I do think his gas tank's getting better, but I just feel like he's going to go balls to the wall at the beginning of this fight, desperately shooting takedowns. And I don't think it'll have to get desperate, but if it were going 3 rounds, by that point, I think he'd be pretty gassed out. I think Hu's height's going to work against him a little bit. Petroski's going to be able to get on the inside, take him down early, find the back, rear naked choke, give me first round submission, and Petroski. Next up, we got Makwan Amirkhani taking on Lerone Murphy. And this is a fun fight, man. I really like this fight. Obviously, Makwan been fighting. He did lose to Komela Kirk, who a lot of people don't really know as well. But most of his fight, he's fought Edson Barbosa. And maybe y'all don't know Danny Henry as much, but Edson Barbosa, Shane Burgos, Arnold Allen, and before then, he was a little hyped. He was kind of a hyped prospect, and once he came to the UFC, some people were like, oh, Arnold Allen got the decision over him, and some people were ready to kind of throw in the towel on him. But, we know what this guy does. He comes out hot at the beginning. He looks to take you down. Got really good jiu-jitsu, pretty solid wrestling. If he gets on top of you, especially early, you're in a lot of trouble. And I definitely feel like if he wins this fight, it's going to be a first-round submission. I need to look. That submission prop wasn't out when I was looking at it yesterday, but I think it's out now. And I had a couple people tweet me about it, what I thought about it. And I definitely feel like if Makwan wins it's going to be a first-round sub. Lerone Murphy only doesn't have no losses. Does have a draw with Zubaria, who we're going to be talking about later. But definitely on the feet, he's going to have the advantage. I definitely feel like he could knock Makwan out, but most likely if it happens, it'll be late in the fight. Makwan's shown durability. One time we've seen him get knocked out as Shane Burgos once he got completely gassed. And I think that's possible in this. I could see a late second round, third round finish by KO from Lerone or TKO. But I could also see a decision from Lerone. So I don't know if I want to play a prop on this. I feel like most likely it's Lerone by decision. Second most likely it's a late finish by Lerone. Third most likely it's a first round sub by Makwan. So maybe you parlay Lerone up and you hedge out with Makwan first round sub. Because I really feel like, man, after that first round, Makwan's path to victory is going it's getting diminished severely. I really don't see him winning the fight in any way besides getting Lerone down early and just submitting him. The striking's pretty far apart. I mean, obviously, could he get on top of him and try to wrestle him for 2 rounds? I mean, it's possible, but I just feel like in the second round, the amount of energy it's going to take to just keep taking Lerone down and hold him there is just going to gas him out. Lerone's gas tanks looked much better than Mach 1's so far. I know he only has 10 fights. He's not as experienced, but I'm going to go Lerone. As long as he can avoid those first round submissions. After like 7 minutes, I really see Mach 1 slowing down, Lerone starting to take over. So give me Lerone. Give me Lerone by decision, but I do feel like a late KO is definitely on the table. Next up, we got Mikhail Olekshinsky or Oleksinkuk. Zuck. I always fuck this guy's last name up, man. He's been fighting the UFC for far too long for me to not get his last name wrong or right. But, you know, it is what it is. I always get on people for not being able to hit the easy ones, but, man, this one's tough. But taking on Shamil Gamzatov. Yeah. And two tough names to pronounce. First off, though, Shamil just came off his UFC debut against Klidson Abreu, and honestly, like, went back and watched it. I really don't. Which card was that on? Because I didn't really remember it. Had to go back and watch it because I really didn't really remember it. Yeah, it was on the Zabit Cater card. I think that was one I had to rewatch because I was training during it or something. That's why I didn't really remember the fight too much. But I went back and watched it. And honestly, it wasn't a really great showing from Shamil. I mean, it was a close fight. It was pretty competitive, and it really did make me think, like, when I first saw this booking, I was like, okay, I feel like, you know, Shamil might, you know, he's the better striker. He's the slicker striker. I definitely feel like the more technical guy on the feet. He's 14-0, and he's fought some pretty tough guys. I mean, you know, not a lot of names you might know, but PFL and ACB. ACB is a tough organization. Just fighting a lot of these savage Russian guys. And, you know, fighting Mikhail, you know, obviously going to have the experience on him. I mean, his losses are to OSP and Jimmy Crude. He beat Bukauskas, even though I didn't really think he won that fight. He did beat Antigulov in the first round. It's kind of Antigulov's MO. He did beat John Vellante by KO too. And I mean, he's definitely going to have the experience advantage. And I really do feel like, you know, the grappling's pretty close. I mean, I feel like Mikhail could land takedowns because he's going to be the one going forward. He's going to be, his style is just go forward, throw bombs. And I do feel like Shamil, you know, that could play into Shamil's, you know, his style a little bit because he's going to be looking to counter. He's going to be on the back foot probably for a majority of this fight. And, you know, the thing is, though, Mikhail, man, if he can just avoid the big shots, the judges are going to like the fact that he's going forward. You know, like, he's going to be coming forward the whole time. That's just his style. I don't think he knows any other way to fight. I think he could land a couple takedowns. I don't know if he could control Shamil, but I really feel like this is just a straight up, like, pass for me. It's probably, like, the biggest pass on the card for me because it's just tough. I mean, stylistically, I just feel like this is going to be a close fight. You know, I do like the fact that, you know, Mikhail's fought a little bit of the tougher competition. I definitely like the fact that I feel like he's going to be going forward, throwing the big shots. Shamil looking to counter on the back foot. It's just, man, I don't know if I could trust Mikhail to go for takedowns. If I could, then maybe I would like him more as a dog. But I don't know. I mean, it's tough. Overall, I think I'm going to land Shamil by decision just to pepper him up. And, you know, he's going to be on the back foot, which I don't love. But, you know, I feel like in this fight, you know, he's just going to have the crisper, sharper punches. And he can be able to counter Mikhail a good amount. And it could be a tough fight for him if Mikhail doesn't mix in some grappling. I mean, I don't even think it's out of the realm of possibility that Shamil could land a takedown. Just for one of them to start shooting takedowns, I think it would be really smart because this fight's going to be pretty close on the feet, I feel like. But I'm going to go Shamil. I'm going to go Shamil by decision. And again, this one and the Petrosky fight are probably my biggest passes on the card. Next up, we got Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos taking on Benoit St. Denis. And St. Denis, 8-0. Fighting over at Brave. Decent competition. Not the worst. Just probably nobody that you really would recognize too much. Definitely a finisher. I mean, you go through these, and these are just all finishes. It's just a lot to come in, and you're not even going you're 25 years old. He's never even gone. I mean, has he gone the distance once? I want to say he's never gone the distance. Yeah, he's never gone the distance. And it's his UFC debut at 25 years old, and he's fighting a dude with like 10 plus UFC fights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 UFC fights. And it's not like, typically when you see these type of matchups, it's one guy on a decline, on a pretty hard decline. But Zaleski, I don't even think is on the decline. I mean, I could argue that he's coming off a win. I thought he won the Muslim Salikov fight. I mean, I had a little bit of money on him, so maybe I'm biased. I'd have to go rewatch it, but I thought he won. I think it was the first 2 rounds. I'd have to go rewatch it, but I'm pretty sure those first 2 rounds I had Zaleski winning. Dropped him. Salikov came on strong at the end, but I thought that was a pretty good fight for him. And then the Leech. We're gonna be talking about him later. He's obviously a dangerous puncher. Caught him with a good shot. But other than that, I mean, knocked out Sean Strickland, knocked out Luigi Vandermeeny, choked out Curtis Millender, beat Alexei Kunchenko, beat Max Griffin, beat Lyman Good, beat Omari Akhmedov, lost a split to Nicholas Dalby. I mean, just the amount of experience, even in those losses, it's like, man, this is a tough matchup for me against Benoit. And, Benoit, I feel like, going to be trying to mix in some takedowns, but it's like Zaleski's a high-level black belt. And then on the feet, I feel like Zaleski, I just feel like he's the more crisper technical striker. Benoit's going to have to get him down. He's going to have to take him down, maybe get to his back. I really feel like he's got to finish Zaleski because Zaleski's going to be winning the rounds. I feel like on the feet, he's going to be landing the better, crisper shots. He's good at mixing in the kicks, mixing his strikes into takedowns. I don't really think he's going to be taking Benoit down. I think he's just going to be trying to play it out on the feet. I could see him knocking St. Denis out, honestly. Again, he's never been to decision. We got to know what this guy's gas tank is looking like. I mean, it hasn't looked horrible so far, but we haven't seen it really get tested. And I think it's going to get tested in this fight unless Zaleski finds his chin early, which I think is a possibility too. But I'm going to go Zaleski. I'm going to go Zaleski by knockout. I just feel like this is a levels fight. We kind of got into that a little bit earlier, and I think this one even more so. I mean, the guy's got 30 pro fights. He's got 12 UFC fights. This guy's 8-0, and he's never even seen the scorecards. This is a tough matchup for a debuter. And, I mean, I've liked what I've seen so far from Benoit, but, man, this is a little bit too much too soon. And I'm going to go Elizeu Zaleski by KO, probably in, like, the second round. He's going to start finding his stride. And by the second round, he's just going to have him a little hesitant on the feet until he finds something big, puts him out. Next up, we got Albert Duraev taking on Roman Kopylov. And, man, Kopylov had a decent amount of hype coming into his UFC debut. Didn't fight a lot of guys you guys may know, but, when he came in, a lot of people were like, oh, another Russian savage, another one of these savage Russian dudes that's just going to be, taking dudes down. And, that's what everybody sees when they see these Roman Kopylov from Russia and they're undefeated. And then you saw him in that Carl Roberson fight, and it was not a good showing. I mean, Carl Roberson is a guy who gets out-grappled in almost every fight. At least the fights where he loses, he's getting out-grappled. And in this Roman Kopylov fight, he was out striking him. And then he took him down, and he choked him out. Like, Carl Roberson took this Russian down and choked him out. And I mean, I get, He didn't have a ton of fights. He's only 8-0. He's inexperienced. He could still be getting better. He's only 30. But I just feel like, man, that's a tough matchup when you're fighting a guy in Albert Duraev who's a much better grappler than Roberson. A much better grappler than Roberson. This is a guy who actually looks to take every one of his opponents down and grapple and submit them. He's got triangles, arm bars, north-south chokes, rear naked chokes, neck crank. He's just taking dudes down and getting on top of them, and his top game is smothering. And I don't even think on the feet Kopylov might have a slight advantage, but I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's going to be a noticeable amount. I think their striking is going to be pretty competitive. And then Albert not only has the grappling, but I know Kopylov is going to be thinking about that grappling. He's going to have to worry, even when they're just striking, oh shit, don't let this guy, change levels. Don't let this guy, and that could set up a big punch. I wouldn't be surprised if Duraev landed a big shot, even if he doesn't knock him out, just rocked him, just because Kopylov, after a couple of them takedowns, is going to be worried about that right hand. He's going to be worried about the power in Duraev's hands, because he does have power, even though he's a grappler. And but overall, I think Albert Duraev, he's going to take him down. And I think another submission is going to happen, man. I think Kopylov's going to have a tough start to his UFC career, because I think he's going to go back-to-back submission losses in his first two fights. And I just feel like Duraev, the striking is going to be competitive enough to where he can mix in those takedowns and not have to worry too much. And then get this guy tired and find the neck. Maybe find the arm. I don't know which way he's going to do it, but I really do feel like a submission is coming. I think Duraev is going to get on top of this guy. The grappling discrepancy is going to be pretty noticeable from the beginning, and he's going to get this guy out of there. So give me Duraev by submission. Do I think a decision is possible? Definitely possible. Maybe ground and pounds him out. So maybe you don't play the prop on this. Maybe you just parlay up Duraev. But I do feel like a submission is the most likely scenario. So give me Albert Duraev by submission, and I'm going to go second round. Next up, we got Zubaria Tukhugov taking on Ricardo Ramos. And, Ricardo Ramos, been a little bit mixed bag so far. Came into the UFC, fought a couple lower level guys. Did beat Kong Ho Kong. It was a split decision, but that was a pretty legit win. Before then, beat Amin Zahabi and Mikori Tanaka. And, then he lost to Said Nurmagomedov. Nothing to hold your head on. But beat Journey Newsome and Eduardo Garagori. Then lost to Lerone Murphy, who we talked about. Beat Bill Algeo. It's been a mixed bag for him. And, I think he's a pretty legit fighter. In this fight, I definitely feel like, it's a pretty close contested fight as far as skills. The thing that I give Zubaria an edge on is he's just a little bit quicker on the feet, a little bit more explosive. He's got a little bit more power. Ricardo is going to have a little bit of a reach and height advantage. Again, I always say, every single video I say it at least once, reach and height's only an advantage if you know how to use it right. And I definitely feel like it could play out a little bit against him, because I do feel like Ricardo's a little hittable. I do feel like his defense is a little shaky, and I don't know how durable this guy is. Zubaria, the problem with him is he doesn't throw a ton of volume, man. There's a lot of times he just gets tired and he just doesn't do a lot. He lost to Mahaev by rear naked choke, and then he was finished by Ahmed Aliyev. Other than that, it's just been decisions. And in his UFC career so far, he's been to 1, 2, 3, 4. I want to say it was 5. Yeah, 5 decisions. 4 of them were splits. And 2 of those he lost. It was to Moicano and Dawodu, 2 legit fighters. But, I just feel like a lot of times he doesn't do enough. And a lot of times he gets gassed, and he knows his gas tank's not great, so he's not throwing a lot of volume. He's trying to save himself. He's definitely explosive, but he just doesn't throw enough volume to win rounds, especially as the fight goes on. He's losing that third round in most of his fights. And I definitely feel like in this fight it's going to be close, and in that third round, Ricardo definitely could edge it. If he makes it to the third, I definitely feel like he'll probably win the third round. Because I think it's going to be a competitive fight. The thing is, I could see Zubarea clipping him before then and knocking him out. Again, Ricardo, I just feel like it's a little hittable. I feel like Zubarea could, like, both these guys could hit a takedown, but I really don't see them both, either of them really relying on that much. Maybe a takedown here or there, but I just feel like this fight's going to play out mostly on the feet. I feel like Zubarea hits a little harder. He's a little bit more quicker, explosive. Ricardo's a little on the hittable side, and I feel like Zubarea, man, in that first round, he could definitely put him out. And even if he doesn't, it's going to be a shaky decision. But overall, I early on, I thought I was going to maybe take a dog shot on Ricardo, but I don't know. I just feel like, man, after watching more, like, some of Ricardo's fights and getting a little refreshed on his last couple of fights, he just stands with his chin up a little too much. I just feel like Zubarea, man, this is a good matchup for him to really clip his chin and maybe put him out. I'm going to go Zubarea by knockout, probably first round. If it gets to the third, though, it's going to be dicey. If you got money on Zubarea as a minus 165 and it gets to that third round, it's going to be dicey because I don't think he's going to win the third, and it's going to be about who won that second. So hopefully if you're Zubarea better, you can square those first 2 rounds away because I don't think Ricardo, if he gets a finish, it'll be in that third round. So I guess you won't be out of the water yet, but early on, I definitely feel like Zubarea is going to be able to be the one landing the more impactful shots. I don't really think Ricardo is going to be able to. His wrestling, his jiu-jitsu's good, but his wrestling's not great. So I don't know if he'll be able to take Zubarea down. I think you'd have to clip him with something, maybe catch him in the scramble to get on top of him. I just don't really see that happening. So if anybody gets on top, I think it'd be more likely it's Zubarea. And I think he hits harder, going to land the more impactful shots, more explosive, faster. So give me Zubarea by knockout. But if it doesn't, if it ends up getting extended, it's going to be a fucking sweat. Next up, we got Amanda Ribas taking on Virna Jandiroba. And, man, I've been really torn on this fight, man. Amanda Ribas, everybody loves this girl. She's super just likable. How could you not like her? Her style is dope. She brings a lot of fun fights. She's a finisher. And also, just her personality is just super cool. Like, super likable. How could you not root for her? And her last fight, we saw her gas out a little bit, though, at the end of that second. Marina, a super legit striker, one of the best strikers in the division, was able to clip her with some big shots, kind of knock her out twice. It was pretty crazy. A lot of people, Ribas winning there as a favorite. A lot of people are really high on her. But Marina, again, her striking is legit. Her takedown defense is legit, and we just saw that again recently. Before then she had a good streak going, but you could poke some holes in some of these wins. I mean, before the UFC, she did lose by knockout to Poliana Vienna, and then before then, beat Ariana Carnelosi, who just got a win in the UFC recently. But a lot of these are girls you wouldn't know, and then Emily Whitmire, okay, busted, I wouldn't even say prospect, but lower level for sure, very lower level. Mackenzie Dern, a little bit one-dimensional. Maybe it played into her style a little bit, and that was also coming off the pregnancy, coming off the layoff. Didn't look like the best Mackenzie. And then Ronda Marcos, a girl with an even 11-11 record. Paige Van Zant, her last fight got cut, I think she just I think that was the end of her contract, but regardless, some lower level girls for sure. And then Marina Rodriguez was the big step up and, obviously got finished. Both her losses being by finish. I don't think she's chinny by any means. Her style, she's just aggressive, so, she can be hit. And in this fight, man, Virna Jandiroba, her only loss being to Carla Esparza and Mackenzie Dern, two high-level grapplers, obviously. And in the Mackenzie Dern fight, she really only shot one takedown. I think she thought she could outstrike Dern. And, Jandiroba's striking is getting better, but I do think, it's obviously not very high level. And neither is Mackenzie Dern's, but it was a close fight, honestly. That was a competitive fight. And Dern edged it. But, this fight, is a lot different stylistically because I do feel like Verna is the better grappler. Ribas is a good grappler. Jiu-jitsu's good. Her grappling and overall is good, but I think Verna has the better takedowns. I think she's more likely to get on top of Amanda. And I think her jiu-jitsu is probably a little bit better too. I think Amanda Ribas has good jiu-jitsu, but I don't think it's on the level of Verna Jandiroba. The thing is, I just feel like Amanda Ribas, her takedown defense, we don't know how good it is yet. It could be, maybe Verna gets her down, but it seems like her get-up game is pretty solid. And she's definitely the faster, more athletic girl with definitely the better striking. So I do feel like she's going to be winning the striking exchanges on the feet. It's all about if she can defend most of the takedowns against Verna, keep it on the feet, at least edge 2 of the round striking, because I do feel like the striking edge is a little bit bigger than Verna's grappling edge. Verna's going to have to get on top of her. I do think Verna's one of the biggest live dogs on the card. I've been tempted to bet her. I've been really tempted, but overall, I gotta pick Amanda Ribas. Maybe if the line gets a little better. Because I really don't even really see a prop for Verna, because I could see a decision if she were to win. I could also see maybe ground and pound, but probably not ground. Probably either have to be a sub or decision. I don't know. See, it's not one I would really want to play a prop on. Verna doesn't have a ton of power. It's usually submissions, but Amanda Ribas hasn't been submitted yet, and her jiu-jitsu is pretty solid. Should be solid enough to stay out of the submissions, but Verna's, she broke an arm just recently. Her submissions are legit. Overall, though, I'd have to bet that Amanda, well, not bet, but pick Amanda to keep the fight on the feet for the most part and just be quicker, be the better, slicker striker, and piece her up to a decision. So give me Amanda Ribas by decision, but I do feel like Verna is live. Next up, though, we got one of my favorite fights on the card. Magomed Ankalaev taking on Volkan Oezdemir. And Volkan, man, in his last fight, he is coming off a knee injury. That should be said, too. He is, I believe he just had knee surgery. And he is coming off a knockout loss, too. Really his first, knockout loss where he was, slept. He was ground and pounded by Daniel Cormier. He was submitted by Anthony Smith, but, he was looking good in that Yuri fight. I actually had money on Volkan, and I was feeling pretty confident. I liked what I was seeing so far. And then all it takes when you're fighting Yuri is just one big shot. And, he put him to sleep. And, in this fight, I feel like Volkan, the thing about Ankalaev, he doesn't throw a ton of volume. Ankalaev is solid everywhere, super solid. The only time we've seen him lose is a triangle with 1 second in the fight, which, as somebody who does jiu-jitsu, how you tap in the UFC to a triangle with 1 second, I'm not trying to be some sort of tough guy, but when it is a triangle, it's be different if it was a neck crank or even a submission that can get it turned into a bit of a neck crank, but triangle, it's you're pretty safe in those. You're just going to go to sleep, and it's a little bit of a slower choke, too, so it's you watch it, you just how do you not have someone in the corner that's yo, 5 seconds, and then you just ride it out? No idea. Smells a little fishy to me, I'm not going to lie. A little bit of Russian mob smell to it, but we obviously saw he had the back-to-back wins over Kudalaba. The weird one in the first where Kudalaba was playing possum, and then he went in there and did what I knew he would. I had a ton of money on him in that second fight. I knew he would do the same thing and finish him. And I had money on him in the Krylov fight, and I had money on him in the Dalcha and the Abreu fight. This guy has been won me money 5 fights in a row. So I'm going to be open with the fact that I'm a little biased on Ankalaev. This man, I'm 5-0 betting on this guy. I just really have just liked to. Thank God I didn't have money on him in the Paul Craig fight, because that would have just absolutely broke me. But, in this fight, I definitely feel like, Ankalaev is better everywhere. He's a better striker. He's got better kicks for sure. He's probably a little bit more durable at this point. We gotta have some questions about how. Volkan's coming off some injuries. Obviously the knee, that was a bad one. He obviously got slept devastatingly in his last one. Ankalaev's gonna have the more technical striking. The one thing I will say is, obviously, no time Volkan definitely has power. He could definitely crack the chin. We haven't seen it cracked yet, but we could, Volkan can knock out anyone, that's for sure. And another thing is, Ankalaev does not throw a lot of volume. He just doesn't. I mean, he wins a lot of these fights clean. He looks great doing it, and I think he's one of the best light heavyweights in the world, legit. I think on any given day, this man could fight anybody in that top 5 and win. I think he's super legit. Super legit. I've been saying this for years. Wish I would have been on betting this man earlier, but I was a little bit of questions about him his first couple fights in the UFC, and by then I was like, oh yeah, no, this guy's the real deal. His grappling's legit. Maybe he's not as much of a finisher as you would like on the ground. Like, it seems like he kind of gets position and he's good at keeping position, but not so much with the finishes, with the submissions, or the ground and pound. But I definitely feel like his grappling's still very good. His striking is obviously very good, super clean, super technical. He's been durable. He's showed his gas tank can go 3 hard rounds. I just feel like, man, he's got every advantage in this fight except the volume and except the power. And Ankalaev has power too. Honestly, I don't even know if I can say power, but Volkan's power is also there. They both have plenty enough power to knock out the other with one punch or one kick. Probably going to be a punch if it's Volkan. But overall, I definitely like Ankalaev. I already have some money on him. He's a parlay piece. If you're going to do anything like that, maybe you can hedge with Volkan by knockout. I don't see him winning a decision. I think Volkan's only path to victory is really a knockout. But overall, man, I feel like Magomed could win this fight. He could even submit him. But I think it'll probably be a decision, but a knockout or a submission is on the table. I wouldn't play a prop. I'm going to take Magomed and Goliath by decision. Can't wait for this fight. Next up, we got the return of Hamza Chimaev taking on Jinglang Li, the Leech. And this is going to be a good fight. I mean, even if it ends up being a dominant fight, I'm still intrigued by it because you got Hamza Chimaev. He's going to be a big favorite. He's been a huge favorite in all of his fights. But you got to remember, man, this guy's only had 3 UFC fights, and they're cut, and not cut. But, I mean, he beat Magomed Muradov by rear naked choke. He beat Fabinski. I mean, he's always had the submission threat. But, Meerschaerk's a middling guy. It's not like, the fact that he went from Meerschaerk to Leon Edwards and it had to be canceled 3 times, that broke me. I was really hoping. I had money on Leon too, and I like Hamzat. I'm a fan of this guy. Don't get me wrong. But the fact that I got like plus 130 on Leon Edwards on a guy who's 9-0 is pretty crazy. Hamzat's looked perfect yet. In his first 3 UFC fights, he's absorbed 1 shot. But again, before I move on to the Leech, we've seen he fought John Phillips, a straight-up striker with absolutely no grappling. Rice McKee, a lightweight, up at Reese McKee, actually, I'm sorry, really is a featherweight, my bad. Moved up to lightweight, then moved up to welterweight to fight Hamzat, who fights at middleweight sometimes. Like, Hamzat's last fight was at middleweight. Reese McKee is a career featherweight. So, it's like, these have been very favorable matchups. And then Meerschaerk, I'm sorry, but, like, he did not show up to that fight. He looked like he completely froze. Didn't throw a punch, just stood there like a deer in headlights, and just backed up to the cage and just got one-shotted. That was not even the best Meerschaerk. Not that Meerschaerk is a world beater, but it just seemed like he did not show up that night. And getting into the Leech, very dangerous on the feet. We saw him put out Ponzinibbio in his last fight. But the thing that, really stands out to me, obviously he put out Zaleski, we were talking about earlier. He put out Zawada with a side kick to the body. That was pretty nice. But we've seen him in this Jake Matthews and Neil Magny fight just get out wrestled, man. We saw Neil Magny, even when he wasn't taking him down, he was putting on the clinch, he was grinding him, he was wearing on him. And I just feel like Hamzat's going to be able to go in there and get right to it. I feel like, this is a guy the UFC's obviously trying to build. They were willing to give him the number 1 contender when he was 3-0 in the UFC fighting all unranked guys that are pretty much 2 out of 3 are cut. You know, they want to get this guy on the winning track. I don't know why I mean, I like the Leech, man. This dude's dope. His style's sick. I don't know, like, especially they're trying to build up these Chinese prospects. Like, why don't you give Jing Lang a little bit of a better matchup, man? He's super fun to watch. Coming off that Ponzinibbio win, I like this guy, man. I'm not, like, trying to, like, he's a great fighter, but I just feel like stylistically, man, I mean, it's the most stereotypical puncher's chance type of fight. His only real path to victory would be finding Khamzat's chin and just knocking him out cold. I really don't see him, I mean, at first I was like, oh, maybe he rocks him and snatches up a guillotine if Khamzat gets desperate and tired. Because the one thing I've been thinking about is Khamzat's gas tank really legit? We haven't really had to see it really get tested. I mean, he's completely dominating the fight. It's hard to get tired when you're absolutely dominating your opponent. So I have been wondering, like, if the flaw in his game eventually is going to be the gas tank. But I just don't think the Leech is going to be the one to bring that out of him, if so, because, I just don't think he can stop the takedowns, man. I mean, it's not that his takedown defense is terrible, but Khamzat's wrestling's been super legit. And I just feel like, man, in this fight, the Leech is just going to be able to, like, on the feet, I do think he has that knockout threat, but I just don't think he's going to be able to stuff these takedowns, man. I think Khamzat's going to get out there, get right to work, take this guy down, and after that first takedown, it's not going to be the same Jing Lang. It's going to be when they get up back to the feet, all he's going to be thinking about is a takedown. And, I mean, obviously the KO punch is there. It's possible, but Khamzat's seemed durable so far. We haven't seen him completely gassed so far, and I think the first person that makes him gas is going to have to really have some takedown defense that can make him work. Really stuff some of those takedowns. And I don't think that's going to be the Leech. I was a little intrigued when I first saw this fucking matchup, and I saw plus 330, plus 350, plus 400 on the Leech. Hold up. I might have to take this, but then when you go back and watch these fights, it's like, I've seen Jake Matthews and Neil Magny, two guys that I would consider below Khamzat's wrestling level, just taking this guy down and grinding him pretty easily. So I'm going to have to go Khamzat. And I mean, it's been nine fights, 9 inside the distance. I don't think you really want to get greedy and go KO or sub because, it could be either. But also, man, the Leech has been super tough and durable. Maybe he's the first person to at least extend Khamzat for a full 15. I think a knockout's going to be tough because the Leech is definitely a savage. Definitely not one to just roll over. So I think a submission's the most likely. Locks up a submission after a round or two of ground and pound. But, a TKO is still possible, as tough as he is. If you're not able to change the position, Khamzat's just raining strikes, the ref's going to eventually stop it. So give me Khamzat. Give me Khamzat by submission in the second round. And but a TKO is also possible. Next up, we got Alexander Volkov taking on Marcin Tybura. And I don't have any bets on Khamzat though. This is a fight though that I have a bet in. And in this fight, we did see Volkov come off his last fight, pretty, not the greatest fight for him against Cyril Gane, but at the same time, or did I say Gane? It's Gane. Yes, I don't know why. Sometimes I want to say Gane, sometimes I want to say Gane, but Gane is a pretty tough matchup for Volkov because it's two guys that are, obviously he has a shit ton more fights than Cyril, but for a guy who only has at this point, at that point 8 fights, at this point 10, it just seems like Cyril is a lot more experienced than he looks like, or he looks a lot more experienced than he is actually backwards. Like, he's got to be really just a guy that just from the beginning has taken his career very seriously because he doesn't fight like a guy with only 8 fights in that fight or 10 now. He's so disciplined, and he just fought his fight the whole time. And Volkov is, the guy who's gonna beat Cyril is gonna be someone who's gonna be able to take him down, put him on his back, I think, or just catch him with a big shot like maybe Francis could. But if you want to sit there and kickbox with him and have a technical striking battle with him, that's going to be tough. And that's exactly what Volkov had to do, because he's not going to be one to go in there and make some takedowns, and that was tough. I just feel like this matchup is so much different because everybody's saying, oh, well, Volkov was taken down 15 times against Curtis Blades. And I had money on Blades in that fight, a ton of money. And I had money by Blades by decision. So I cashed out in that fight. But even that being said, it's like, okay, if you take away the Blades fight, Volkov's takedown defense is almost he's really only been taken down by Blades. He has an 85% takedown defense besides that fight. And, he's fought a lot of tough guys, man. He's been fighting, 20 fights ago, he was fighting Vitaly Minikov. He was fighting over on the M1 scene, which is a tough, a tough scene to be, on the regional scene is one of the tougher leagues for sure. And then he was over at Bellator, was a champ. Fought a lot of the best guys they got over there at Bellator. Now he's over here. He's put some weight on. He's put 20 pounds on. He's been weighing in at the limit, 265. He's looking jacked. He's 6'7" and completely jacked to the gills. He's going to have a solid 20 pounds on Teixeira probably when they get in there. He's going to have a nice height and reach advantage. He's going to be teep kicking the piss out of Teixeira. The striking is definitely levels apart. I will say Marcin's on a tear right now, but you got to say these 5 wins, he was 1-4 in his last 5 going into that Spivak fight. And he's gone in there and done what he had to do. A lot of these fights he's getting pieced up, he's getting hurt. Greg Hardy was beating the shit out of him. Walt Harris was landing some good shots, but Teixeira just he gets on top of you, he grinds you out, he lands some ground and pound. And, he's good at making it ugly like that. But if you look at these fights, Spivak, Grisham, Rothwell, Hardy, Harris, it's not the hardest competition. But you look at Volkov. You look at Volkov's competition. Okay, Surreal, Alistair Overeem, Walt Harris as well, who he beat the shit out of. Curtis Blades, Greg Hardy as well, Derek Lewis, Fabricio Verdum, Stephen Struve, Roy Nelson, Tim Johnson. And then, like I said before, even before coming to the UFC, fighting a lot of tough guys. Not to mention he has, 52 fights? It's pretty, 42. Yeah, sorry. Terrible math. Obviously, Marcin Teixeira, decent amount of experience too. He's got 28 fights. He's been fighting the UFC for a while. Both these guys have. But, I just feel like Teixeira obviously going to have to get him down. He's going to have to get on top of him. But that's going to be tough. Volkov's got good takedown defense. Going to have a size advantage. He's good at keeping out his range. His range management is super legit. And I just feel like he's going to be teep kicking him in the gut. He's going to be taking the fight out of him that way with the good body shots, good body kicks. I don't think Volkov is super easy to take down. Even if you take him down, I don't think he's very easy to hold down. I think Teixeira is a little bit up against it here. Obviously, if you can get him down early, start tiring him out, land some good ground and pound there, sap the will from him a little bit there. Could change the fight a little bit. But overall, I got to go Volkov. I did parlay him up a little bit. I think just one parlay. Maybe I put him on another. I don't really think I want to go any. If anything, I would probably say Volkov by KO. I will pick Volkov to finish him, but Teixeira's been pretty damn tough, so decision's possible too. I am gonna go Volkov though by TKO, and I'm gonna go Volkov TKO in the second round. Again, I see a lot of second round finishes in this fight. It seems like, or in this card, it seems like. Next up, we got Islam Makhachev taking on Dan Hooker. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm going to keep this relatively short because I just really don't think there's a whole... I think it's pretty simple to break down. Islam's lost one fight. He got clipped by a big shot. I don't think this is Khabib 2.0 like everyone's saying. At least we haven't seen that yet. You can't beat Thiago Moises, who is legit. Drew Dober, who is legit. But Davi Ramos, Arman Tsarukyan, that was a really good win. But the kids, it was only what? When they fought, he was what? I can't remember if there's updates. He was 21 years old, I think, when they fought. Obviously Arman's got a long way to grow still, but, Islam's super legit, don't get me wrong, but everybody's like, oh, they're just keeping the belt warm for him. I mean, it's possible. I definitely think he's going to fight for a belt at one point, but I'm not ready to just crown this guy Khabib 2.0. I mean, his striking is pretty legit for a guy who's so good at wrestling. I obviously think he is going to get Dan down. I do think he's worth a lot of the praise. I think people slow down a little in the Khabib 2.0. I think this guy's a great grappler. His style's a little differently than Khabib. He doesn't have quite the ground and pound, but his submissions might be a little bit more slick. He might have a little bit better kicks and, a little bit more versatile on the feet. But I'm not ready to just say, the next Khabib. That being said, Dan Hooker taking this fight on short notice, fighting a guy like Islam, he's up against it, man. I mean, at the end of the day, Dan's got great knees up the middle. He's honestly had pretty solid takedown defense. But he hasn't had to fight a lot of grapplers. I mean, he's been fighting a lot of strikers. I mean, you go through his fights, and he's fighting Nasrat, Chandler, who's got decent takedowns, but he didn't need to. He knocked him out very early before having to shoot. Poirier, more of a striker. Felder, more of a striker. Iaquinta, more of a striker. He's kind of versatile, but, not like some overwhelming grappler. James Vick, striker. Edson Barbosa, striker. Gilbert Burns, a grappler, but, Hooker knocked him out in the first round. We didn't really see grappling exchanges, and that was Gilbert cutting down to lightweight. Just hasn't fought a lot of grapplers. But I just feel like short notice fighting Islam, that's tough, man. I really do feel like he's kind of KO or bust. Not just because Islam has been KO'd before, it was his only loss, but I don't think Dan can really stop these takedowns. I mean, it's only 3 rounds, and I just feel like Islam's going to be able to take this guy down, maybe find a submission. I don't think he'll be able to finish him with strikes. Dan Hooker is fucking tough as shit. I think Islam's going to be smart enough to not really strike with him much. He said it openly in interviews. He's going to wrestle this guy. He's not trying to say, oh, I'm going to test my striking or any of that shit. He's going to go right out there, take Dan Hooker down. I think Dan Hooker's takedown defense is pretty solid. Maybe he can stop a couple, but overall, I think Islam gets him down. Maybe he finds a sub, but overall, I'm going to go Islam by decision. I'm not going to bet it because this line's just a little wide for me. And even the decision props, too wide. There's still a chance he could find the sub. So I'm going to lay off of it. I totally get it if you're throwing a flyer on Dan. If I were you, I'd just go Dan Hooker by KO because I really don't see him winning 2 rounds against Islam. But so if you want to take the underdog, I'd go Dan Hooker by KO, but it's your call. I got Islam by decision. Next up, we got the first title fight of the card, the co-main event. And personally, this is my favorite fight on the card. The main event's fire too, don't get me wrong, but this is my favorite. We got Peter Yan taking on Corey Sandhagen. In my opinion, real title fight right here. I mean, Aljo obviously beat Corey, so it gets a little confusing, but Peter Yan beat the shit out of Aljo, and I think Corey's gotten better since that Aljo loss. So I also think Corey beat TJ. I did not agree with that decision. TJ might have had some good control holding him up against the cage, but he wasn't able to drag him down. The one time he got him down, Corey heel hooked him, and literally that's why TJ is not fighting in this fight, is because fucking Corey literally heel hooked him and tore his knee. Now, that was like the one time TJ got on top of him. And, Corey landed the much bigger shots, had TJ rocked. Corey looked great in that fight. I do agree with his own personal assessment that he should have probably worked more to get out of those positions because, I think, he was a little compliant with TJ just holding him up against the cage. I think Corey in his head, he was like, I'm winning this round, so fuck you. But, trying to make TJ do something because the second he tries to really get on the attack, TJ could, try to bring him to the mat. So I think Corey was just like, okay, whatever, we'll just sit in this 50-50 position here. But this doesn't look good for the judges when your opponent's controlling you, even if it's kind of a 50-50 position. But it is what it is. He lost the decision, but he's looked great lately. I mean, since that Aljo fight, he wheel kicked Marlon Rice and knocked him out pretty easily. He flying kneed Frankie Edgar in 25 seconds. And I thought he looked good in that TJ fight. I thought he won that. Coming off that, and then for Peter Yan, we got Peter Yan, who was, a lot of people, and again, I agree, he was beating the shit out of Aljo. Aljo says it himself. Now, if you gotta say though, in those first 2 rounds, it was a little dicey. Aljo was looking good, but the thing is, Aljo just came in with a pace he could not keep up with, and it eventually cost him, and he got completely gassed out. But Peter Yan, a lot of people were saying, until really this fight, oh man, he hasn't fought like the highest competition yet. I mean, Jose Aldo, you could argue, a little past his prime. Uriah Faber, definitely past his prime. Jimmy Rivera, you could argue the same, even though Jimmy Rivera won the first 2 rounds up until the last second when he got dropped. Like, Jimmy Rivera was a couple little, he ducks when he should have weaved. He weaves when he should have ducked twice. And we're talking about a completely different, situation in this division right now. Because Jimmy Rivera won more minutes of that fight for sure. He just got clipped a couple times right at the end of those rounds. And even the Dodson fight was pretty competitive. But again, I am a believer in Yan. I think he's only gotten a lot better. He's as stoic as they come. This man is an absolute savage. I mean, both these guys are super durable. Both these guys are tough as shit. I really don't see this fight being a finish. Both these guys just have really crazy heart and durability. I don't see... I see it playing out mostly on the feet, but I think Peter Yan would be smart to mix in some takedowns. We saw against Aljo, man. Aljo's the wrestler and the grappler, and we saw Yan not only stuffing all Aljo's takedowns, at least all but like maybe 2 of them, in like that first and second round, but we saw Yan easily taking Aljo down. Now, a lot of that was because Aljo was tired at that point, but hey, that's fighting. And Yan was able to just trip him and throw him like it was nothing. It was honestly kind of embarrassing to watch. Okay, that's the wrong word. Like, they're fighting for the title. Like, it's not embarrassing to get beat up in a title fight for the UFC. But just, he big brothered him. Like, he was literally, like, smiling at him while, like, tripping him to the ground. Like, it was kind of crazy to watch. He went like something dumb, like 5 for 6 or something with takedowns. Might have even been like 6 for 6. It was something dumb. He was taking him down easily. And I think he would be kind of foolish to not try to take Corey down. I mean, the one real chink in Corey's armor has been the takedown defense, and that's what Aljo exploited. Went right out there and took him down, got his back in the first, minute of the fight. And sorry, I'm recording this at like 9 a.m. But, and I just feel like that's something he could do here. Take him down and definitely like would be smart to work those takedowns. And I definitely think he can take him down. I think he could, mix those in to win a couple of the rounds. And, I do feel like it's going to play out mostly on the feet. But if Jan's smart, mix in a couple trips, get on top of him, edge some of the rounds like that. And I think he's going to land the more powerful strikes. I mean, Corey is going to have some reach. He's going to have some height. He's good at using his range. He's good at staying at his range and, managing that distance. But Yan, man, we haven't seen this guy slow down yet. The big thing on Yan is he doesn't throw a ton of volume. Corey's going to throw more volume. So if Corey can avoid the big shots, he could win some of these rounds on volume. If he can avoid some of the big shots and avoid the takedowns, stay on the feet, keep the fight on the feet, and just keep outlanding him, he could edge a couple of these rounds. It could get really dicey. I can understand why people are taking the shots at Corey as a 2-1 dog. But overall, man, I just feel like Peter's going to land He's going to land the more impactful shots. I think he's going to mix in a couple takedowns to edge some of these rounds. And, I got to lean Peter Yan. I definitely think Corey has a shot. I do think this line's getting a little wide. I parlayed Peter Yan up a little earlier in the week. I don't think I'm going to play anymore. I do think that, the good thing about parlaying up Yan, either of the Yans, and at the end of this card is, you can hedge out. I think if Corey wins, it's most likely going to be a decision. But I'm going to go Peter. I think this fight's going the distance either way. Both these guys are tough as shit, durable as hell, super tough. I'm going to go Peter Yan by decision. And I can't wait for this fight. Next up, we got Jan Blachowicz taking on Glover Teixeira. And, man, this one pains me a little because, spoiler alert, I have really been cashing some Glover checks. I think the only one I didn't have a ticket on him for was either the Roberson or the Kudalaba fight. I've picked him in his last 5, but I didn't bet him on one of those. But I bet him in his last 3 for sure, and then 4 of the 5. I've really and most of these times you get him as an underdog. He was a big underdog against Smith and Santos. I can't remember the line on that Krylov fight, but you're getting him as an underdog a lot of these times. And, it's been nice because Glover, man, this guy, you could say, oh, his chin's not, great. He gets rocked. He gets dropped a lot. But, man, this man's heart, his toughness and heart, if this was UFC 4, I haven't seen a stat on that game, but that shit better be high as hell. Because this man, even in that Santos fight, he got dropped early. It was like, oh no, oh man, it's probably going to be it. And then nope, he fucking not only survives, he gets the takedown, gets on top, lands some good work, wins the round. Then you see him get dropped again at the end, and you're like, well, it was a great fight. He fought for my money. It's all good. Oh no, double leg, gets on top, not only survives, finishes Santos. This man has no quit in him. He doesn't know what quit means. First of all, I should throw out, this is a 42-year-old and a 38-year-old. Now, it is light heavyweight where you can get away with that a little bit more, but it's pretty cool to see 2 guys. I think Jan Blachowicz started out like 2-4 in the UFC. He was like a middling guy. I remember he tweeted that out after Corey Anderson kind of demolished him. Took him down easily, ground and pounding the shit out of him. Now, he did end up rematching that and knocking Corey out and sending Corey to Bellator, who has been killing it over there at Bellator. So I think stands a good chance at winning that belt against Nemkov here soon. Made me some money in his last fight against Bader. But anyways, Jan tweeted out like, oh, I'm thinking about retirement. I got to figure out what I'm going to do next. And fast forward some years later, and he's holding the belt. And it's nice to see, man. It's nice to see Glover getting a shot, too. I really can't root against either of these guys. Overall, Glover's got to get on top, man. He's got to get on top of Jan, and I think that's going to be pretty tough, man. Jan was able to be taken down here and there earlier in his career, and I think Glover could land a takedown, but keeping Jan down, staying on top of him, doing that for several rounds, I mean, both these guys are tough as shit. Both these guys are going to fucking fight to the end. There's absolutely no quit in these guys. This is going to be a fucking banger. I think someone's getting finished, and I got to lean it's going to be Glover just because, man, Blachowicz, like, I do think if Glover gets on top of him, it could be dangerous, and, man, I'm going to be like, God damn it, this could have been another underdog ticket for me for Glover, but I do think he probably will get a takedown or 2, but on the feet, man, I just feel like Blachowicz has even though Glover does have nice, tight boxing, people always sleep on his boxing, and his boxing was partly, like, Santos had to respect it. Like, obviously, Santos was the much more athletic, quicker, faster, powerful guy. But Teixeira's got good, slick boxing. He stays tight. He's super disciplined. But it's like the same story where Blachowicz just has so much more firepower at this point of his career. He's a much more bigger, athletic. I mean, even though on paper it's like, okay, same height, relatively same reach, just by 2 inches. Like Blachowicz is just, even though they're both a little up there, at this point, like, Blachowicz still seems like he's, like, in his prime, whereas Glover, he is prime because of his skill set, but I do feel like physically, like, on the feet, he's not quite as fast. Blachowicz is just going to be able to, I feel like, land some good shots on him on the feet. I don't know if he'll be able to put him out cold, but I do feel like he's going to be disciplined, whereas he's even talked about in his interviews, and you never want to listen to fighter interviews, really, before fights, but he has said, like, I'm not going to rush in and try to finish him like some of these guys do. They try to, TKO him, and then he fucking double legs you from his knees and gets on top of you and pounds you out. I feel like Blachowicz is going to stay more disciplined. He knocks him down. He's just going to let him up. He's going to take his time, and this is 5 rounds. I really feel like Blachowicz, it's his fight to lose. I mean, it really, Glover has to get on top, whereas I feel like Jan can put him out cold on the feet. He could mix in some clinch, some a little bit up against the cage. He's a bigger guy, a little bit stronger guy. I feel like at this point in their career. I even feel like, if he were to get on top of Glover, maybe, I don't think he'll take him down, but maybe he lands a good shot and gets on top of him there. He could land some good ground and pound. But overall, I think Jan will keep it on the feet. Do not let Teixeira get on top of him. If he does, just stay safe long enough to survive the round, get back to his feet, and, get back to work on the feet where I feel like he has a decent advantage. So I'm going to go Blachowicz. I'm going to go Blachowicz by KO, TKO. I'm going to go third round. And I don't feel like this fight goes 25 minutes. That's been, a lot of people have been saying that about the main events like every week, and then they end up going that way. But I do feel like Blachowicz will be able to put him away. And if Glover wins, I think it's going to be by mounted ground and pound, just like, his MO. So give me Blachowicz by KO, TKO, third round. Both fighters retain their belt, even though Peter Yan, technically not the champ. In my eyes, he is. I mean, dumbass knee to throw. That was not smart, but I do think he's the best 135er in the division. I do want to see him fight TJ because I want to see him beat the shit out of TJ. I didn't think TJ won that Corey fight, but it is what it is. And obviously, I want to see that Aljo rematch. But people got to stop giving Aljo he's not doing himself any favors with all the dumb shit he's doing on social media just to troll you guys. I don't know how some people don't understand he's trolling, but at the same time, like, the man had a fucking neck surgery. Like, he's not going to come back and fight, let alone fight a fucking savage like Peter Yan for 5 rounds. Fight 25 minutes against the best 135er in the world with a fucking fresh off a neck surgery. Like, come on, y'all wouldn't do that either. Like, get off my man's back a little bit. But overall, yep, I think both champs will retain, even if you don't want to consider Peter Yan a champ. And that's going to be it. I will let you guys know about my bets. I will tweet them out roughly real quick. I will say I think Yan is a parlay piece. Yan inside the distance. Peter Yan by decision or as a parlay piece. I'm not betting this fight. Maybe you take Islam by decision, but it's not really a bet I'm looking at. I think Volkov as a parlay piece. I wouldn't bet a prop. I think this is a fight where I feel like maybe the value would be the Leech by KO, but I got Hamzat winning, probably inside the distance, so maybe you take Hamzat inside the distance. I got Ankalaev as a parlay piece. Maybe you take him by decision. Verna Jandiroba, I think, is live, but I still got Rebus, probably Rebus by decision. But maybe you take a flyer on Jandiroba by decision, or Fico to decision. We got Tukagov, I got probably by KO, but I'm not really looking to bet that. Duraev, I got probably by submission, but I think a decision is possible too. I'd maybe just parlay him up. I got Zaleski inside the distance. Wouldn't bet this one. Maybe Amir Khani first round sub, or Lerone third round KO, or you just parlay Lerone up. Wouldn't bet this one. Is Magulov by decision? I think is a pretty solid bet. I'm probably gonna put a little something on that. Ulanbekov maybe by decision or parlay, and I might throw a little something on one of those. Those are where my head's at so far. I'll tweet out the bets and let you guys know what I end up cashing or actually putting my money on. Other than that, man, leave a comment. Let me know what bets you're taking, which ones you agree and disagree with. Tweet me. Always go back and forth with you guys, whether it's the comments, whether it's on Twitter. I'll be live on Twitch towards the end of the fights and after them to go over them. I'll probably play a little UFC 4, get some fights in. Hopefully get to use a little of the Yan Bros, Piteo and Blachowicz. Other than that, man, enjoy the fights. Let's get another streak going. Let's win some money. Can't wait for these fights. Again, I think this is one of the best cards, if not the best card so far this year. Cannot wait. And we'll be a little late on the stream on Twitch. The link's going to be in the caption. I'll be a little later. I'm typically live for all the fights every week. But these start at 10:30. I'm going to be training during some of these. So I'll be a little late, but I will be there. Hit me up there. And with all that out of the way, man, have fun, win some money, and peace.